In the headlines, President Park Geun-hye calls for innovation in service industries to create jobs and boost growth. The government announced measures to support the launch of foreign hospitals and ease daily price change limits on the stock market. The U.S. calls for a quick formation of a new cabinet in Iraq that's locked in a fierce power struggle. And actor Robin Williams was found dead at his California home. Known to have battled a severe depression, officials say he apparently took his own life. He was 63. Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to Primetime News. Live from Seoul, I'm Kang Tae-ri.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us this evening. The president unveiled a slew of more specific measures to achieve that oft-repeated paradigm shift for Korea's economy. And we begin with the Korean government's plan to make the country's service sector a new growth engine.
It says it's supporting the launch of foreign hospitals and easing limits on daily stock price changes. Hwang Ji has the details.
The government will cut red tape, write special laws, and promote competition to help develop 7 service sectors into a new growth engine. During a meeting led by President Park Geun-hye on Tuesday, the government identified medical, tourism, financial, distribution, software, contents, and education industries as promising service sectors and confirmed a string of measures to boost investment in them.
We will create momentum for our economy to escape from its heavy dependence on exports and the manufacturing industry, and will aim for growth that's led by the service sector and domestic demand.
It will streamline regulations to lure foreign for-profit hospitals and provide subsidies for hospitals that attract foreign patients to Korea. The plans call for more than doubling the number of foreign patients to 500,000 by 2017 from 210,000 last year. It will also push through 4 resort complex development plans on the islands of Yeongjong-do and Jeju that will boost investments by around $8.5 billion. Regulatory reform will also take place in the nation's financial sector. The government will gradually ease the current 15% limit on daily stock price movement to 30%. It expects the measure to stimulate the local stock market and strengthen the market's price-setting mechanism, although there are concerns that it could fuel stock price volatility. Overall, the measures, which come as part of President Park's 3-year economic innovation plan, are expected to boost investment by around $14.5 billion and create 180,000 jobs. Hwang Ji, Arirang News.
And Korea's Trade Ministry also unveiled its plans to support locally oriented small and mid-sized companies in going global by helping them find clients abroad. Here is Song Ji-sun with more.
If things pan out as the government hopes, some 10,000 small and mid-sized companies will find new buyers overseas to more than double their sales in the next 3 years. That, ministry officials say, will likely more than triple the number of workers employed by these companies. They cited a report by the Korea International Trade Association saying job growth at exporting companies is 4 times higher than those relying solely on the domestic market. The Trade Ministry will designate scores of trading houses to help match the companies with foreign buyers and develop a program to dispatch retired trading experts to help them utilize new export channels. In a meeting with trade officials on Tuesday, President Park Geun-hye stressed the need for the government to provide support for the smaller companies that lack experience when they expand overseas.
내수 판매만 하던 중소 중견기업이 수출 시장에 뛰어드는 것은 수영장에서 수영하던 사람이 바다 수영에 도전하는 것과 같다고 생각합니다.
The government will also take steps to make online commerce more profitable for them by streamlining online documentation procedures by the end of this month. In addition, the government will set aside additional $1.6 billion in soft loans to help these new exporters link up with overseas customers and provide better insurance arrangements to protect them from currency fluctuations. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea is busy touching up on final preparations for Pope Francis' visit later this week. And ahead of his arrival, the Catholic Church in Korea has released a special message as well. Park Geun-hye tells us more.
Ahead of the Pope's 5-day visit to Korea later this week, the Catholic Church in Korea released a special statement on Tuesday.
I think the Pope's traveling to Korea, the farthest eastern part of Asia, because the Pope wishes to pray for peace on the Korean Peninsula and in Asia.
The Pope's visit aims to embrace people who are suffering.
Pope Francis always reaches out to people in need of help and those who are suffering. I believe the Pope will deliver a message of consolation and of hope to those whose hearts have been broken in the spirit of St. Peter.
During his trip, the Pope plans to meet with people from diverse walks of life, including Korean victims of Japan's wartime sex enslavement and the bereaved families of those who died in April's ferry disaster. And now, with only a couple of days until the Pope's visit, the country is in full swing preparing for the Holy Father's visit. The preparatory committee says extreme care will be paid to protecting the 77-year-old Pope, and they are going over his schedule and the rehearsals for event. An official media center has been set up at a short distance from Myeongdong Cathedral. It will be open from Wednesday through Monday for the some 2,800 reporters from all the world who are covering the papal visit. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Turning to inter-Korean relations, South Korea awaits North Korea's response to its offer for high-level talks, but Pyongyang's official media is pressing ahead with its hostile campaign against the South Korean government. Seoul appears determined, though, to soothe tensions on the peninsula. Hwang Sung-hee has more.
A day after South Korea's surprise proposal for dialogue, North Korea threatened further provocation should Seoul and Washington go ahead with their joint Ulji Freedom Guardian military exercises next week. North Korea's state-run Rodong Sinmun warned Tuesday its threats of retaliation against such war games should not be taken as empty words. It accused the South of turning a blind eye on nuclear threats from the United States, while wickedly pressing Pyongyang to give up what it calls justified nuclear program in the North as a precondition to building trust. This as Seoul awaits Pyongyang's response to its offer for high-level talks next Tuesday at the border village of Panmunjom to discuss issues of mutual concern. Seoul officials have indicated that the South is willing to discuss Pyongyang's demands to lift South Korean sanctions on North Korea and allow southern tourists to resume tours to the North Korean resort of Mount Kumgang. The offer for dialogue followed Seoul's decision to provide Pyongyang more than $13 million in aid through the World Food Program and the World Health Organization. President Park Geun-hye is expected to introduce further measures to better ties in her Liberation Day speech on Friday. The shift in tone comes after months of tensions between the two Koreas. But whether Seoul will stick to its fresh strategy of using the carrot will depend entirely on Pyongyang's next move. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And to pick up on this shift in tone and offering carrots on the part of South Korea, Dr. Moon Byung-chul from Seoul National University is joining us right here in this studio for an in-depth discussion. So what did you think about South Korea's carrots? Do you think it was a sudden shift in tone, or do you think it's just a follow-up on President Park Geun-hye's North Korea policy that just sort of had to come to a halt because of what happened back in April?
Yeah, I don't think basically it's related to April ferry disaster. In my view, this policy change is a result of Park Geun-hye administration's the Korean Peninsula trust process. So in terms of the Korean Peninsula trust process, the South government would like to give some kind of economic aid to North Korea.
So why this particular timing? We have the Pope visiting this week along with Liberation Day. Can we read anything into the calendar or the schedule of these talks proposals?
Yeah, there are some issues between South and North. For example, Asian game in Incheon, and the reunion of the separated families in Korea. But in my view, it's very common in Korea to make a major proposal to North Korea in this time every year, because in August we have Liberation Day, August 15.
Because Liberation Day serves as a common bond between North and South.
Many political leaders has made a very good offer, a very good proposal towards North Korea every year.
But South Korea is not exactly putting its foot down and saying we're limiting the agenda this time to talk about separated families. It's actually leaving some door open to talking about potentially lifting some sanctions or a joint tourism project. Do you think it will actually lead to that kind of momentum this time?
I think North Korea really wants to discuss this kind of issues. However, South Korea government are really concerned about North Korea nuclear development. So it is quite complicated. Two Koreas already had a previous round in February this year, but no major progress achieved at that time.
So after this weekend's ARF meeting, some experts have called on South Korea to see more practical results from many of its relations, including North Korea. Do you think that the Park administration should continue on with its trust politique strategy along with the U.S.'s strategic patience, or do you think we need to shift to something that brings something more tangible?
I think strategic patient policy has been failed, because it didn't make any better situation on the Korean Peninsula. So in my view, South Korea's North Korea policy should become more generous than it did.
All right, Professor Moon, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Kirby's comments came in response to
your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. Breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang Sean Lim and Kang Chae-ri from the heart of Seoul.
Begins now.
Primetime news, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
A group of North Korean defectors have been captured by Chinese guards as they were trying to cross the border into Laos. A close source said 11 female North Koreans, including a child, were arrested in the Chinese border city of Kunming Tuesday morning. Defectors trying to make it into Southeast Asian countries from China must cross the border from Kunming, but the city has bolstered regulations since early this year. South Korea's foreign ministry said it contacted the foreign ministry in China requesting for the safety of the defectors and that they be sent to a region of their wish.
A former UN Special Rapporteur on violence against women has heavily criticized Japan for its lack of repentance on the wartime sexual slavery issue. Our Yu Lian has more on what solutions have been presented.
Marking the 50 years since the end of World War II in 1996, Radhika Kumaraswamy released a report to the UN on the history of Japan's military sexual enslavement to raise international awareness over the issue. She concluded through the report that Japan's enslavement of foreign women was a violation of international law and urged Tokyo to make an official apology.
And from what we saw and heard from these comfort women, it was very clear that it was a situation of slavery. They were kept in very small cubicles and in little cubicles and were given and were made to take care of Japanese soldiers. Quite a large number actually, but sort of more than 8 a day at least. So it was a situation to us of slavery.
Japan did make a partial apology back in 1993 through the Kono statement, but recently re-examined the document, casting doubt on whether its admittance of coercing women into sexual slavery was based on solid evidence. But Kumaraswamy says there's ample evidence.
Looking at some historical material on this issue, as well as interviews with Japanese women's NGOs. Makes it very clear that this is mostly coercive.
She went on to say that Japan's efforts to legitimize the sexual enslavement system during that time period simply made no sense.
And of course, this happened because the Japanese army felt this was better than letting the army loose on the civilian population. There had been a lot of rapes in Nanking. And so it responded by having this system of military sexual slavery. But that's not a response by any stretch of the imagination. You have to
Expressing frustration over Japan's recent hardline stance, Kumaraswamy emphasized that Japan needs to provide the victims the compensation and justice they so deserve.
It is very clear from the evidence that this was a coercive set of practices. It is also very clear that it did not come up in the Tokyo discussions. So why not accept do the right thing, apologize and give compensation? Why is it not being done? I think, and that is
Yudian, Arirang News.
We're all very
In tech news, Korea's smallest handset manufacturer, Pantech, has filed for court receivership due to severe cash shortages. The company said it would use all means at its disposal to normalize management as soon as possible. Pantech has been overdue in paying back some tens of millions of dollars in bonds, and on top of this, failed to secure enough cash to repay debt that was due on Monday. The Seoul Central District Court will decide whether to accept the receivership. If it does, Pantech will have to submit its normalization plan to the court within 2 months. Pantech holds about 10% of the domestic handset market share.
A political storm, turmoil is brewing in Baghdad as Iraq's new president names a new prime minister to replace Nouri al-Maliki.
With more, we now turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, it appears that Baghdad is facing a political showdown at a time when the government is struggling to unite against Islamic militants.
That's right. Al-Maliki and his supporters say they won't go down without a fight, denouncing the move as a violation of the Constitution. Washington has welcomed the appointment of Haider al-Abadi, with Iran emerging as the latest supporter of the prime minister designate. This as U.S. airstrikes continue to fend off insurgents in the north of the country. Our Shin Se-min has the latest.
Iraqi President Fouad Massoum has named a prime minister to end Nouri al-Maliki's 8-year rule, but Maliki is refusing to go after deploying special forces on the streets of Baghdad. Speaking on state television Monday, Massoum said he hopes Haider al-Abadi would succeed in forming a new government that would protect the Iraqi people and unify the country against the growing threat of radical Sunni militants. But the president's public rejection for Maliki's bid for third term has raised the stakes in the fierce battle for political control. Abadi now has 30 days to form a new government that can win parliamentary approval. However, Maliki accused Massoum of carrying out a coup against the constitution and the political process. Maliki's Shiite-dominated bloc won the most parliament seats in April's election. U.S. President Barack Obama welcomed Massoum's decision. He said it was an important step on a path towards a more inclusive government that will unite Iraq's different communities.
Urge all Iraqi political leaders to work peacefully through the political process in the days ahead. Now, this new Iraqi leadership has a difficult task. The United States stands ready to support a government that addresses the needs and grievances of all Iraqi people.
Meanwhile, Kurdish forces continue their battle against Islamic State militants in the north and west of Iraq with the help of American airstrikes. U.S. aircraft on Monday hit 4 militant checkpoints and destroyed several of the group's vehicles near Mount Sinjar, where thousands of people of the Yazidi religious sect have taken refuge. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And messages of condolences have been pouring in from around the world following the death of beloved actor and comedian Robin Williams. Authorities say the 63-year-old was found dead at his home in California and believe he may have taken his own life. Our Kim Min-ji takes a look at the back of his life as this prolific entertainer.
Actor and comedian Robin Williams has died at the age of 63. According to Marin County Police, Williams was pronounced dead shortly after noon on Monday local time in an apparent suicide at his home in Northern California. Preliminary cause of death is believed to be asphyxia. His publicist says the actor had been battling severe depression of late. In a statement, his wife Susan Schneider says she was utterly heartbroken over losing her husband and best friend and asked people to remember Williams for the countless moments of joy and laughter he gave to millions. Born in Chicago in 1951, Williams studied theater at Juilliard School in New York. He entered into the homes and hearts of America as an alien visitor in the 1970s TV series Mork and Mindy. He went on to act in more than 100 television shows and movies, starring as a lovable father turned nanny in Mrs. Doubtfire and a fatherly therapist in Good Will Hunting, which won him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. In the past, Williams had openly talked about his battle with alcohol and drugs, and he recently visited a rehabilitation center to, as he put it, fine-tune his sobriety. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And finally, the World Health Organization has authorized the use of experimental drugs to treat the deadly Ebola virus as the death toll continues to rise. The UN Health Agency said on Tuesday that a panel of medical experts determined the treatments were ethical, citing the overwhelming circumstances of the viral epidemic spreading across West Africa. But they stressed that the effectiveness and possible adverse effects of the drugs were not yet fully known. The approval comes as a Spanish missionary who was being treated for the viral disease died in a hospital in Madrid. If confirmed, it would mark one of the first Ebola-related deaths outside of Africa. The latest WHO figures show the current outbreak has now killed 1,013 people as health authorities race to find a possible cure or vaccine. And that wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Welcome to sports. Starting off with golf, Tiger Woods, aka the Golf King, has been kicked out of the top 10 list for the first time in nearly 2.5 years. On the official World Golf Ranking list, Woods achieved 5.74 points to place 11th. Just last week, Woods maintained the 10th ranking, but got pushed back as Phil Mickelson moved up to 9th after taking second place in the PGA Championship. This is the first time Woods has dropped out of the top 10 ranking since March of 2012. In May, Woods had maintained a first-place spot for 60 consecutive weeks, only to fall out. Ongoing injuries barred him from playing his best. Moving on to football, South Korea is trying to set up a friendly match with Paraguay and Costa Rica this fall. The Korea Football Association said it contacted Paraguay and Costa Rica to schedule the matches for October 10th and 14th, respectively. Paraguay is looking into its play options in the Asia region, but FIFA official website already has the South Korea-Paraguay match listed on the calendar. The KFA says it's in the negotiation stage. If Paraguay and Costa Rica come through, Korea will have 6 scheduled FIFA friendlies this year. Now over to Tuesday's KBO action between the NC Dinos and the Kia Tigers in Gwangju. Starting the pitching game, Eric Hacker for the NC Dinos and Yang Yong-jong for the Kia Tigers. Kia gets on board quick in the bottom of the first by taking advantage of a couple of errors, running in for 2. NC comes back in the game in the second with Eric Thames hitting a homer to trail by 1. Score 2-1. Kia returns the favor in the bottom of the second with a single homer by Kim Da-won to the left. Kia in the lead 3-1. Kia holds out for a final score of 4-1. Checking out other games. Currently, Tucson is battling it out against Hana in the 9th, tied 9-9. SK beats LG 7-3. Nexon demolishes Lotte 10-1. Finishing things off with the 2014 Asian Games in Incheon. The Korean Association of Athletics Federation announced on Tuesday that a team of 65 athletes and 19 coaching staff will take part in the Asian Games from September 19th to October 4th. The association said 34 male athletes will compete in 24 events, and 31 female athletes will enter 23 events. South Korea will try to win 3 gold, 5 silver, and 10 bronze medals on home soil. At the previous Asiad in China 4 years back, Korea won 4 gold medals in athletics. That wraps it up. This has been Kim Hyun-bin. Always stay tuned to updates from the world of sports.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather update. It was a hot day here in Korea, but since nightfall, temperatures have dropped quite a bit, making a cool and breezy evening. And we can expect similar hot conditions tomorrow with the mercury hovering into the high 20s as cloudy skies help keep them down. Now, also showers are in the forecast this week, starting in the southern regions, lasting until Friday. And there'll be a slight break from the rain on Saturday, but by Sunday and Monday, the whole nation will be affected, so make sure you plan your weekends accordingly. Now, going over to our temperature readings, Seoul will top out the Wednesday morning at 22 before reaching up to 28 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will top out to 29 and 28 degrees. Now moving over to other regions, Jeju Island peaks to 28, while Dokdo and Mangkungang both tops into the mid-20s. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you guys.
Thank you, Michelle. And that's Primetime News. Thanks for spending the time with us. I'm Kang Chae-ri.
And I'm Sean Lim. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.